how people respond to things tells us a lot about how they've taken them. So potentially we might have said something completely inane. We might have said something without even intending offense to be taken, but somebody has taken offense. And so we have to figure out how they're hearing what we're saying. Just because we're saying something innocently doesn't mean it's being taken innocently. Sometimes even we might say something because we do want a reaction out of somebody. We know that the exact thing that we're saying should get the desired result. And that's important. We need to hold on to that because it's important for us for our passage today. See, people have spent a lot of time looking through the Gospels and trying to discredit who Jesus is by saying, well, he never says that he's the Messiah. He doesn't come out openly and say, hey, look, everyone, I'm the Messiah, promised one. Hey, look, everyone, I'm God. And so clearly he's not God, is what people would say. Obviously, for some of us, that's ridiculous. And we can clearly go through our scriptures and point to spots in the gospel and say, well, he's pretty clear here. He's pretty clear here. And in Mark, it's actually very hard to kind of talk through that because Mark has this aura of secrecy. All through Mark, we see Jesus do amazing things, absolutely phenomenal things. He heals people, he drives out demons, these amazing things that surely you'd want to spread that understanding. If you want followers, just ask any Instagram person or someone on YouTube. If you want followers and you do something amazing, tell the world, let them follow you. But Jesus says, say nothing to no one. Tell no one what has happened. Time and time again, Jesus moves away from kind of the understanding that he's the Messiah. He moves away from people thinking that he is the Messiah. And we've got to think about why. Time and time again, people get the wrong idea about who the Messiah was. Jesus isn't the first person to come who people have kind of thought, hey, this person might be the Messiah. The people before him were military, and they ended in brutal repression by the Romans. And so Jesus is aware that if the people of Israel, if the people around him start to think, hey, maybe Jesus is the one, maybe this guy is the Messiah, then there's this riotous kind of rebellion that might arise. And that's not Jesus' mission. But as we get closer to the end of Mark, we're in Mark 14, there's 2 chapters to go, everything starts to kick off. It's all changing, and it changes quite dramatically in Mark 14. Jesus is quite more explicit with his disciples at the Last Supper, and he talks a lot more about what's going on in his mission and why he's here. And our passage, we find ourselves in a trial. And the way we've got here is Jesus had his Last Supper with his disciples. He's already had that. He's already predicted that someone is going to betray him. One of his 12, one of his kind of closest disciples is going to betray him. He then goes to the garden and he prays. And it's in that garden that he is arrested. And he is brought before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish court. He's brought before the chief priests, the high priest, the Sanhedrin, and there's all these people who are brought forward to give testimony about him. Now, false testimony, but testimony. There are these false witnesses that are brought up time and time again, and we read in verse 59 that those testimonies don't agree. That although there's all these people giving these testimonies, they're false and they don't agree. So Jesus stays silent through all this, and the testimony can't hold up in court. You need 2 or 3 witnesses to agree to something, otherwise it just doesn't hold up. And Jesus hasn't responded to any of these claims. This trial is a sham. They are out to get Jesus. And it is an interesting side note that these kind of men, these priests who are so worried about the righteous thing and doing what's right, according when they talk to Jesus about him breaking the Sabbath, well, that's not the right thing to do. That's not the holy thing to do. They keep on spouting that, yet they're more than happy to try to murder someone, and they're more than happy to try to hire people to lie for that to happen. So they're clearly not too worried about holiness and righteousness at this present time. But Jesus remains silent, and that really irks them. And so we get to our passage. So I'm going to be reading from Mark 14, 60 to 64. Then the high priest stood up before them and asked Jesus, "Are you not going to answer? What is this testimony that these men are bringing against you?" But Jesus remained silent and gave no answer. Again, the high priest asked him, "Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One?" "I am," said Jesus, "and you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming on the clouds of heaven." The high priest tore his clothes. "Why do we need any more witnesses?" he asked. "You have heard the blasphemy. What do you think?" They all condemned him as worthy of death. That's a huge thing, isn't it? This is the thing that allows them to condemn Jesus to death. This is the huge reaction. And to understand the reaction, we need to get to the question. See, Jesus has stayed silent. He hasn't given them an answer. He hasn't responded to their lies. He hasn't responded to these false accusations. But he does respond and he does answer when the priests start to ask the right questions. Are you the Messiah, the Son of the Blessed One? See, that's a loaded question. One, there's the Messiahship. So that's one part of it. That's huge. And yes, they misunderstand the Messiah, but they aren't necessarily going to get upset if Jesus claims to be the Messiah. They're waiting for this Messiah. So they might not get too upset if Jesus openly claims to be the Messiah, but the Son of the Blessed One, that's a very loaded term. Son of is the image of. There's the equality there. It's same as. So where we would think of kind of a son being separate to the Father, the thought was sons were the image bearers of their fathers. Sons had the same kind of authority, or would have the same authority when they grew up, would have the same authority as their fathers. They could essentially stand in place of their father. They would be equal at the end of the day. So to be the Son of the Blessed One, the Son of God, is claiming equality with God. So it's a loaded question. And that loaded question gets a very loaded answer. And Jesus says, "I am." And for us, we go, "Oh yeah, I am." Sure, that's just agreeing. But "I am" itself is heavily loaded. This is a statement of divinity. This is Jesus claiming to be God before he says everything else. "I am" is big. "I am," for example, in Exodus 3:13-14, this is Moses talking to God. This is the burning bush. And Moses has been told by God, "Go to Egypt and rescue my people Israel. Go tell the Israelites that I'm calling them out. Go to Egypt, talk to Pharaoh, talk to the Israelites, bring them out." And Moses goes, "Well, I don't even know who you are. How am I going to get the people of Israel to follow you? Who are you? So who are you, God?" And the answer he gives is this. So this is chapter 3, verse 13-14. Moses said to God, "Suppose I go to the Israelites and say to them, 'The God of your fathers has sent me to you,' and they ask me, 'What's his name?' Then what shall I tell them?" God said to Moses, "I am who I am. This is what you are saying to the Israelites. 'I am has sent me to you.'" Throughout the Old Testament, "I am" is not used of God. It's not ever really said. That's the "I am" that then becomes kind of the name of God. So the Yahweh, the Lord, capital Lord, that we've spoken about previously as well, that kind of the name of God that the Jews didn't want to say, "I am," that's what it is. "I am." So when Jesus says, "I am," we've got to understand he probably didn't say it in Greek, but he would have said it in Hebrew, being in Jewish courts. They would have understood very, very clearly what he was saying. It's a big claim. It's more than just, "Yep, you got it. I am the Messiah and I am the Son of the Blessed One." He's saying, I am God. I am. The name of God is perfectly appropriate to be attributed to me. So that's a big claim. But he goes on and he says, the Son of the Mighty One, and you will see me coming on the clouds of heaven. He is claiming equality with God. Sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One, that's the same authority. The person at the right hand of the King has the King's authority. And so Jesus is saying, not only am I going to say, "Well, I am God," Jesus is saying, "I am God, and being as God, I have the same authority as God." And that is huge. So if we want to look at does Jesus ever kind of make it really clear that he's Messiah, that he is God? Yes, he does. He makes it abundantly clear. And we can understand that he makes it so clear because of who he's talking to. He's talking to the chief priests. There's the high priest, the chief priest, the Sanhedrin. These guys, they get Jewish law. They know the Jewish stuff. They know it all. Well, they claim to know it all. It just hasn't really seeped in. So when Jesus says this, he's very aware of what he's saying. He's very aware that what he says will get a very specific result. And that result is that they charge him with blasphemy. See, this is where when we say something and we understand how somebody's taken it by their reaction, this is it. The chief priest, the high priest, gets it. His reaction is violent straight away. He calls it blasphemy. He completely understands what Jesus is saying. He completely understands that Jesus is saying, I am God. And that's really important for us. Because if we want to understand how significant what Jesus is saying, then we look at the responses. When we look at the man who's healed from his blindness, how does he respond when Jesus speaks to him? Really positively. He understands who Jesus is. The legion who's healed from the thousands of demons, he gets who Jesus is. And so he's sent to proclaim around the surrounding towns, because he's not Jewish. He doesn't have the kind of hang-ups about who the Messiah is. He's spreading that already. This is significant because the high priest, the way the high priest responds is incredibly aggressive, incredibly violent. This is serious for the high priest. Not just for the high priest, but for everyone. Because all of them condemn him to death. That's not just look, he's done something minor. This is serious. This is significant because Jesus is calling himself God. So as we read Mark, as we get to this passage, we've got to understand what Mark is really trying to get us to see, get us to understand. And we need to remember what Mark wants way back at the beginning, that the people who just kind of knew the sayings of Jesus but weren't actually following Jesus, the people who thought Jesus was just kind of a kind of good teacher, Mark's saying, no. Followers of Jesus don't just follow a good bloke. Followers of Jesus don't just follow a good prophet. Followers of Jesus don't just follow a good teacher. Followers of Jesus follow God.